What?
At Harvard Extension School, we believe the 21st century museum professional has a critical role to play in addressing global issues like climate change, decolonization, and social justice. As a student in our Museum Studies program, you can explore these topics and more in courses like Museums and Material Culture, Managing the Museum in the 21st Century, and Close Looking. Beyond the classroom, learning extends to many museums around Harvard. Experience the treasures of arts and science at the Arnold Arboretum, the Harvard Art Museums, the Peabody Museum, and the Museum of the Ancient Near East, just to name a few. In the program, you can customize your path, taking courses in other fields like sustainability and digital media design. You can also work toward a graduate certificate in topics like nonprofit management and digital storytelling. We invite you to learn more at extension.harvard.edu/museum studies.
Okay, take it away.
Success. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It looks like we have about 67 participants, which is fantastic. We're so glad that so many of you are interested in the topic of repatriation. And I am going to screen share, and I have a few slides to share, not too many. We want to dedicate the majority of our time to some breakout rooms in the Whova app. Though you're welcome to stay here in this Zoom area to chat as well if the Whova app isn't working for you. And really try to workshop some of your NAGPRA challenges, issues. Really, we hope to meet you where you're at. So we have lots of facilitators with us from tribes and agencies, from the National Park Service, from museums and universities, who bring a lot of expertise. I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement that was actually written by the students at our school. So I'm from Phillips Academy, a high school in Andover, Massachusetts. And students at our institution have recently been working on developing a land acknowledgement. And I'll just read what they have prepared. Oh, sorry. I'll try to. Let us acknowledge that we are gathered on Indigenous land. We understand that while we acknowledge our occupancy of native lands, we are still complicit in perpetuating the principles of settler colonialism, neocolonialism, and violence upon which this land was colonized. We vow to be mindful of the land we inhabit, actively participate in dismantling settler colonialism, and honor Indigenous peoples and organizations in any way we can. And so I really have to give credit to the group Native Americans at Phillips Academy, students that have worked to develop that. And also thank you to our sponsors, the Harvard University Extension School Museum Studies Program, which we saw their promotional video, and our friends at NAGPRA Communities of Practice. And if you're not familiar with NAGPRA Communities of Practice, it's a great group of NAGPRA practitioners who meet several times a month. You're welcome to join us, and we can work through issues with that group as well. And also there's lots of great presentations. Here are all of our participants, participant facilitators, and you can sort of see I've kind of grouped folks into these pods. These are how folks will be set up in the breakout rooms in a few minutes. And as I said before, we have lots of diverse experience here. So we're ready to meet you where you are and help work through whatever NAGPRA challenges, issues, that you might be having. If you're wondering how to get started, if you're having issues understanding affiliation, whatever the case might be, this group of people is here to help you. It's rather fortuitous that almost exactly 30 years ago this week, NAGPRA became law, the Native American Graves Repatriation and Protection Act, and it represents a significant piece of civil rights legislation. At its core, the law requires that museums develop inventories of ancestral remains, funerary belongings, consult with tribes, determine affiliation, and give notice and facilitate repatriation. You can see that consultation with tribes is really central to each of these steps. So you can't really do them properly unless you're working with tribes. So even the inventory step, you really need to do that in concert with the tribes. And certainly determination of affiliation, you need them, you need those conversations as well. So I can't emphasize that enough. Melanie O'Brien, who's the manager of the National Park Service's NAGPRA program, is actually one of our facilitators today. She's on the call right now. And this is some work that she developed. It's all publicly available through a website called Tableau. And if you check the chat, I've put a link to some resources. It has our biographies, it has our email addresses, it has some great resources to go and click on. But this shows just how many ancestors are still in institutions without really a clear path forward to repatriation. Well over 100,000 ancestors. And that doesn't include ancestors that have not been recognized or identified in institutions, small institutions who've never conducted an inventory. These are institutions that have done some preliminary work. So it's perhaps a bit daunting. You can also go in and look at this data in terms of your state, your institution, regionally. It's pretty extensive. I would encourage you to go and take a peek if you haven't seen it before. Some of the challenges are sheer numbers. Many institutions have yet to consult with tribes. Some museums may think that they're in compliance, but they, perhaps based on what former personnel have told them, but they may not be. And so I love this quote from Shannon Keller O'Loughlin, who's the executive director of the Association on American Indian Affairs. NAGPRA is the floor, not the ceiling. There's no limitation set by NAGPRA. So regardless of what institution you're at, you can do repatriation work. And there are people like us that are here to help you with it. And here we are. And so the way that we've sort of set this up to work is that we've created 5 breakout rooms in the Whova app. So if you go to where it says communities, if you haven't done this yet, on an iPad, it's sort of down at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a computer, it's up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And click on communities, and under that are meetups, and you'll see 5 breakout rooms for this particular session. They're all called NAGPRA 30, and each one has somebody's name. So there's one that I've set up. I'll be in there with David. There's one with Nekole. She'll be in there with Katie. Jaime will be in there with Marla and Melanie. Lorén will be in with Jackie. And Jayne-Leigh will be in with Krystiana. And so we have really set those up so that you can dive into those with us. You can move around between them. If you end up in one and there's 60 people, you can go and visit one of the other ones. And so I'd encourage everybody to go and populate those at this point. And we're there to dialogue and kind of workshop things with you. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. So you should be able to do that through the Whova app, and we'll leave this open as well. So this is running and going, and you can come back and visit us in here if you'd like to as well, or if you can't get into one of those. So I'll maybe stick around in here for a few minutes just in case people are having a hard time getting into Whova.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll go over to the other one.
Okay, David, thanks.